Hi everyone, and welcome to the 5th video of my TRND Bot review series. In this video, I'm going to cover the data and results from testing TRND Bot over the 4th and final week of October, from the 26th to 30th. As I've explained in my past few videos, I am now a TRND affiliate. I accepted TRND's offer to be an affiliate only after getting consistently good results in my study. My review and opinions are still entirely my own and based solely on the data I collect. If you subscribe to TRND using my affiliate link in the description, I will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. Like always, this video is for educational purposes only. If at any point in this video you need clarification on the trading strategy I'm using or the scope of the study, check out my introduction video linked in the description. Here's what the S&P 500 looked like over the course of the 4th week on a 30-minute time frame. Notably, the SPY was extremely flat this week, especially for the first 3 days. This makes sense because the market typically trickles slowly downwards the week approaching an election. There was little significant movement this week compared to others, however there was a nice downward trend on the 26th, a little gap down momentum on the morning of the 28th, and the strongest sell-off began at the end of the day on the 29th and continued into the 30th. Just going off of price action, I suspect TRND Bot performed the best on the 29th and 30th because they're the most trending of the days. Over the 5 trading days, TRND Bot signaled a total of 25 trades on the S&P 500, an average of 5 trades a day. This is more than the previous week's average of 3.4 signals a day, which makes sense because TRND Bot signals change more frequently when there are no significant trends. Here's the distribution of signals over the 5 days. Each day had almost the exact same amount of signals. The 26th and 29th both trended in one direction for exactly half of the day, so it's pretty cool that they both had the same amount of signals. The 28th had many doji candles on the 30-minute chart, meaning the day was very choppy and non-directional, so it makes sense that the 28th had the most signals. I'm not surprised the 30th had the fewest signals because it had a small number of distinct trends. Of the 25 trade signals, 11 trades resulted in loss and 14 trades resulted in profit, a 56% win rate overall. This is not nearly as high as last week's win rate of 88%, but I think it goes to show that last week's win rate was almost certainly an anomaly. 56% is still an incredibly high win rate, especially given the SPY's lack of movement this week. The outcome of these signals were 56% hit profit target 1 or better, 40% were closed for either profit or loss due to a signal change, 0% were closed at the end of the day, and for the first time since I started this study, 1 trade, or 4%, hit their stop loss. The stop out is definitely the most notable part of these results because we haven't had one yet. It occurred on the 28th towards the end of the day before the sell-off. This was the choppiest and flattest part of the whole week, so the timing makes sense. The takeaway here is definitely don't blindly rely on TRND Bot if you're seeing many signs of indecision on larger time frames. This week, the average loss was $155, the average profit of the Profit Target 1 strategy was $249, and the average profit of the 50-50 strategy was $285. The average loss of this week decreased 19% from last week, while the average profit of the Profit Target 1 strategy increased 7%, and the average profit of the 50-50 strategy was identical to the previous week. This shows that despite a lower win rate this week, we actually had smaller losses and larger profits on average. The actualized reward to risk ratios were 1.61 to 1 for the Profit Target 1 strategy and 1.84 to 1 for the 50-50 strategy. Both improved substantially from last week and are more in line with what we saw in the first 2 weeks, again leading me to believe that the extremely high win rate and extremely low reward to risk ratios from last week were atypical. Here are the wins and losses by time of day. Like usual, there was the most amount of signals in the first hour. However, weirdly, there were no signals between 10:30 and 11:30, the first week where signals haven't occurred at every hour. This difference likely just comes down to the individual week's price action differences though. Most of the times this week had exactly a 50% win rate, meaning the hour didn't seem to play a significant role in TRND Bot's success signaling on the SPY. However, this week, the last hour of the day had a 100% win rate, and last week it had a 0% win rate. There's very little data for these time frames though, so I'm more interested to see how this looks once all the data is analyzed together in my next video. Now for the total profit for the final week of October trading the SPY. By risking $250 at the stop loss per trade using TRND Bot, you would have profited $1,786 using the Profit Target 1 strategy, and $2,286 using the 50/50 strategy. This is nowhere near the insane profit of last week, but it is pretty consistent with our other weeks despite how hesitant the market was. Here's a graph of the week's running P&L. The graph starts with a weekly profit of 0 and begins on the 26th, the first day of the fourth week. You can then see how the P&L changed over the course of this week. The 27th had the least profit of under $100, which makes sense because of how flat that day in particular was. The 30th had the most profit of over $700, which also makes sense because it had comparatively the nicest trends of any day this week. The 30th, interestingly, had no trades hit Profit Target 2, despite the seemingly nice trends. This is the end of new SPY data. The next video will combine each week's data together for a complete analysis. Now, onto Tesla. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. The final trend review is coming up, and I have many more algorithm reviews in the works for the future. Here's what Tesla looked like over the course of the fourth week on a 30-minute time frame. The first thing that stands out is how similar Tesla's price action was to the SPYs. This is likely due to market sentiment about the election taking priority over Tesla's specific sentiment. We know TRND Bot performed well in the SPY this week already, but Tesla is inherently more volatile than the SPY even during its flat weeks. The only notable price action this week was the 26th and 30th actually had three really nice trends. The 30th had a very aggressive high volume sell-off during the morning, and the 27th, 28th, and 29th were uncharacteristically flat and low volume. Over the 5 trading days, TRND Bot signaled a total of 22 trades on Tesla, an average of 4.4 trades a day, which was almost identical to the previous week's average of 5 trades a day. This is interesting because of how different the price action looked this week compared to last week. Last week, there were at least a lot more apparent trends and opportunities than this week, though it turns out that TRND Bot only signaled 3 more times last week than this week. Here's the distribution of signals over the 5 days. Once again, the most trending days, the 26th, 27th, and 30th, had the least signals, which I've come to expect and which agrees with previous weeks. The 28th and 29th had just slightly more signals and were slightly flatter. Of the 22 trade signals, 11 trades resulted in loss and 11 trades resulted in profit, a 50% win rate overall, which is very similar to last week's win rate of 48%. My opinion is that a 50% win rate for such a flat week is actually pretty good, depending on the reward to risk ratio, of course. TRND Bot was profitable last week with a less than 50% win rate, so I would expect about the same performance this week. The outcome of the signals on Tesla were 45% hit Profit Target 1 or better, 50% were closed for either profit or loss due to a signal change, 5% were closed at the end of the day, and, like all other weeks, 0% hit their stop loss. So far, Tesla has still not stopped out, but one of the losses on the 29th that was technically closed due to a signal change came just 12 cents short of stopping out. Despite how seemingly flat this week was, significantly more signals hit Profit Target 1 or better this week than last week, which only had 36% of signals hit Profit Target 1 or better. This week, the average loss was $156, the average profit of the Profit Target 1 strategy was $233, and the average profit of the 50/50 strategy was $286. The average loss and average profits are all up this week, with the average loss increasing 22%, the average profit of the Profit Target 1 strategy increasing 20%, and the average profit of the 50/50 strategy increasing 15%. They all increase pretty proportionally, so this is good news considering this week's 50% win rate. The actualized reward to risk ratios were 1.49 to 1 for the Profit Target 1 strategy and 1.83 to 1 for the 50/50 strategy, about what we've come to expect at this point. Here's the win and loss data by time of day for this week. This week's number of wins and losses by hour looks pretty much identical to the previous weeks. What I find interesting is that Tesla seems to usually have pretty good success in the first hour of the day, whereas the SPY's first hour tends to have more mixed results. This week had the most consistent win rate by time of day that we have seen yet. The days varied so little by time of day that it makes sense that the win rates varied little as well. 2:30 to 3:30 differed greatly from last week. This week we had a 0% win rate at this hour, and last week we had a 100% win rate. Now for the total profits for the final week of October trading Tesla. By risking $250 per trade at the stop loss using TRND Bot, you would have profited $846 using the Profit Target 1 strategy and $1,428 using the 50/50 strategy. This is up just slightly from last week. This week and last week have had much lower profits than the first 2 weeks, likely because of Tesla's lack of movement, but at this point it's hard to say what might be a typical week's profit if you were to use TRND Bot on Tesla over a long period of time. Here's a graph of the week's running P&L. The graph was absolutely shocking to me. Last week, only the Profit Target 1 strategy lost money, and even so, that was only one day. This week, multiple days with both strategies had losses overall. Let me show you last week's graph for comparison real quick. Here, you can see that only the 19th had a net loss. The losing days this week were absolutely the most flat of the 5 days this week, but I'm surprised by the magnitude in which they lost. The 28th had a 100% loss rate, with 5 out of 5 trades closing for loss due to a signal change, and the 29th had a 67% loss rate, with 4 out of 6 trades closing for loss due to a signal change. It took until the end of the day on the 30th to recoup these losses. We almost weren't profitable this week. This concludes the final week of testing TRND Bot. The next video will conclude this review series with cumulative results and analysis on all the combined data, my thoughts on TRND Bot, what I like and don't like about it, recommendations for using it, who should be using it, and improvements I think Trend should incorporate. I hope you find the series informative and helpful. If you have any other questions about TRND Bot's performance so far, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.